once upon a time, whilst I was hitchhiking, and I made it down to New Orleans, I decided that I was going to go try and find the crypt for Marie Laveau. I don't know what possessed me to do that. I thought I had some sort of honky weird notion of exercising it or something. I don't know. So I found out on the map where her crypt was, reportedly. And so I set off to find it. Now, the thing about the crypts, or at least the ones that I saw, were they're just these big, like, square block things, and they all got big walls and wrought iron gates around them to where miscreants such as myself could not enter into the crypts and cause a mischief. So I decided that I found a wire coat hanger laying on the ground there, and so I decided to turn it into a makeshift crucifix, which I then hung around my neck. So here I go. I'm going to go find Marie Laveau. And turns out it was the wrong group of crypts anyway, and hers was however far off some other direction. And I walked up there. I may have been barefoot. Now, we all know about New Orleans and the sort of the concept of spiritual hoodoo and voodoo and boogity boogities in New Orleans. Well, as I turned the corner into one of the blocks in between the crypts, there appeared to be a large gathering of my brethren who were descended from Africans. And I'm sure that there may have been a certain amount of cultural beliefs in the hoodoo stuff in that area, that if one were to have seen some skinny white boy walking around all barefoot and by himself with a homemade crucifix around his neck, that might not be a place they wanted to be. So they decided that, within several moments, as I walked around again, they completely were not there anymore. Shortly after that, a bunch of police cars came rolling through, I guess looking for me, and they didn't find me. Quite a bizarre experience, to say the least. I think maybe on that same evening, after I decided that was not going to work out too well, I was going to go walk down one of these Bourbon or Royal Street. Mardi Gras was not around at that point. There was some other thing going on. However, the streets were packed. And I was walking down this major thoroughfare. I forget if it was Royal or Bourbon. I do. It may have been Royal, it may have been Bourbon. I think it was Royal. I don't think it was Bourbon. And yeah, I got some strange looks whenever anybody actually noticed me. Most of the time, people were too busy with their own business to notice me. And you keep walking and you keep bumping into people. Bumping into people, bumping into people. Everybody's bumping into each other. So I stopped right in the middle of the street. Stood there for a minute. I was there, I don't know, a minute or two. Not a single person touched me while I was standing still. But when I was moving around, I kept bumping into people. And I guess people naturally, as they were walking towards me, saw me as a stationary fixed object and were able to step around me without bumping into me. Obviously, I wasn't moving, so I wasn't going to bump into anybody. Very, very interesting time. I said, you gotta watch out for the criminals in New Orleans. And the first thing I did getting off the bus was help some little old lady cross the street. Then had other people looking at me like I was going to be the bad guy trying to mug this little old lady. People were looking at me kind of funny. There's this other middle-aged lady who's just like, and she's just like, I need help getting to the bus stop. I need to get to the bus stop. I was like, okay, I'll get you to the bus stop, lady. And so the lady was like, what are you doing? You know, are you going to try and take her pocketbook and run down the street? There's another odd occurrence that happened. There was I was walking down this back alley, sort of down below the interstate, because the whole interstate's up on pilings. Like, to my knowledge, most if not all the interstate is elevated, at least where I was, going over top of the buildings. It's like 30 feet up above your head. And there's a car that appeared to have, one was male and well, the other two were females or something like that. And there seemed to be a verbal disagreement going on in the car of a serious nature. And so I was like, well, is there anything I can do to help? I mean, I didn't say anything like that. I was about a good 40 feet away, just kind of looking at it. And this one woman gets out the car, and she's looking, I forget exactly how she looked. She didn't look, she obviously was not terribly happy. I don't know if she feared for herself from the male individual in the car. She looked over at me for a second. She kind of furrowed her brow like she's concentrating at me. Then she proceeds to open the car door and start stomping this dude while she's in the car. I'm like, well, it looks like she's got it under control. And I went on about my day. And the cats, man. You ever watch the Blind Melon DVD? Shannon Hoon's talking about how the cats in New Orleans would whip a cat's ass in Indiana like that. There are lots of cats everywhere in New Orleans. Lots of cats everywhere. pretty cool place, were it not for the fact that I was wanted by the local police in Virginia. I may have wound up staying down there. It's definitely got a vibe. Not necessarily always a good one, but it's got a vibe, that's for sure. Very strong vibe. And here's an interesting fact. Did you know, if it were not for all the levees, see, New Orleans has one of the most important, is maybe perhaps the most important port in the United States, because everything, and there's surprisingly a lot of shipping and receiving, happens from the Mississippi River. All the stuff from, you know, Chicago and Rust Belt and all that Midwestern corn, agriculture, all that stuff gets put on the barges and rolled down the river to New Orleans, where all them people stop. And they go in and they spend their hard-earned money on stuff. Which is why it's so important in the several wars that have been fought. But were it not for the levees that are in place in New Orleans, then the mouth of the Mississippi River would have wandered like 30-40 miles to the west, which would mean New Orleans would no longer have its place of importance. So it is very important to the city of New Orleans, for financial reasons, that the mouth of the river stay where it is. And they spend a lot of money trying to keep it there. And that's why they all still live there. I don't know. Can't just move the city along with the river, I suppose. I mean, you could. No, the infrastructure involved in that would be way too massive. Maybe just rebuild the whole city on boats. And that way you can sort of shift the whole city along as the river moves. Maybe that would work. Yeah, that wouldn't work. No. Anyways, lots of other things happened in New Orleans. I was only there like 4 or 5 days or something like that. I was saying it's a place that was sort of like an Airbnb back before Airbnbs were huge, and there were several sort of like long-term tenants there. And one of the first things I did was clean all the mouse droppings and nests out from under the bathroom sink. And then a day or two later, I said something to one of the ladies. I think it was the one that actually owned the place, or rented it out and then sublet it to all the other people. I don't know if you don't mind me staying here. And she said, "No, you clean the mouse stuff out from underneath the sink. You good. You can stay here as long as you want if you keep doing stuff like that." I'm like, "All right." So it was a good time. It was a good time. Most of the time. Sometimes not. Anyways, I think that's about it for that. And maybe we'll have some more reminiscence. See you now.